Good morning. Welcome back to the Gut Shot podcast. I'm Shamsul and Sam here. So we have an extremely special episode with our returning and popular guest, Syed Akbar, and we have a topic that I think will interest both our domestic and our international audience. It is we want to talk about projects and initiatives that has been carried out in Malaysia, which is a developing country, since I think some of these projects since the 70s and the 80s, and lesson learned from all these policies, and how actually even with these policies after 30, 40, 50 years, we have seen the results of these policies. And some of them, if for our international audience, it will be very reminiscent to what we are seeing into policies that are being set up today under the moniker of diversity, inclusion and equity, DEI, so to speak, and also in terms of government involvement in businesses and how it works or it does not work. So let's start with that, Syed, right? I think we were looking at it and talking about the era of our Prime Minister Mahathir, which is the fourth Prime Minister in Malaysia.
Fourth and seventh.
Fourth and seventh, yeah. He was re-elected at the age of 90 plus.
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi. I'm not sure whether that's Return of the Jedi or Return of the Sith. So anyway, regardless, the Jedi, the first prime ministership lasted for more than 20 years, I think.
22 years.
22 years. So I think to start off this conversation, let's have you start off with an example of what we are going to touch on in this subject matter.
Thank you, Shamsul. Good morning. Yeah, it's high time we spoke about this. I think there's never been a serious what do you call this?
Analysis?
Post-analysis or post-mortem or an autopsy of the new economic policy, which has been around, as you mentioned, which has been around for now over 50 years.
The new economy, if you don't mind, I mean, I just tell people that are not familiar with Malaysian policy, the new economic policy, or the NEP for short, is basically Malaysia's version of DEI, which we started off because we felt that at that particular time, the Malay, let's call it, depending on how you look at it, they were probably a marginal majority or a marginal minority, depending on whether we count Singapore into the whole equation or not. But they were supposed to be left behind from economic terms, and that was how the government decided to have this group of people by identity as Malays and indigenous people to be lifted up into the economic strata. Does that encompass the description?
The underlying idea is affirmative action,
right?
Which I agree and I support. I think you need to support. You need to help people who are in need. Just like in any family, if you have kids, some kids are much they're capable than other kids. So you tend to focus a bit more attention on those who are kids who need more help. That's affirmative action in a nutshell. So affirmative action, it's a good thing. But in Malaysia, unfortunately, the affirmative action was mixed up with political gimmick. And along the way, the political gimmickry overtook the affirmative action intentions, and it became very politicized, and ultimately it became almost purely political patronage. That means rewarding political associates and allies and things like that, which is not illegal in Malaysia. Because in Malaysia, we do not have political funding laws. We do not have laws that regulate political contributions and contributions for during elections and things like that. So it's not illegal. So unfortunately, when it's not properly regulated, it has been railroaded and hijacked. So let me just my brief understanding of what has been going on the last 50 years. Well, Dr. Mahathir was Prime Minister for 22 years. Just by his tenure, of such a long tenure, of course, he carried, some say he carried the burden on his shoulders. Some will say he carried the blame, so many things. But because of the long tenure, of course, he was the man in charge, the boss. The buck stops
there
with him. So he has to bear a lot of the responsibility. But to me, the affirmative action became a gimmick. Now, rule number one is that whenever you implement any economic policy, it is good if you can find it, the policies. There's an underlying basis written in some economics textbook. It's found in the books. You can go to a library or you can get someone to do some research, academic research about these policies and economic ideas you wish to implement. But there are no economic textbooks. This is purely, as I said, it became gimmickry. It became very political, based more on political emotions and political expediency rather than any solid underlying economic theory. So the problem is when you call it an economic policy, and indeed it affected the economy of the entire country, and then you go ahead and implement it, and then like in any other policy, there will be the pluses, the minuses, things will go wrong, things like that. So when things started going wrong or there were mistakes made, you could not go back to the library and open a book and read what exactly or why something has gone wrong and how can we fix it, because there is no reference point. Because as I said, it is not based on any economic theories in any economics textbooks. So how did it evolve then? Basically, it was pushed by political factors. If you recall, in 1969, there was an election in the country, and the election results were not very good for the ruling government at that time, or for Malay political power at that time, because the vote swung against the government. There was a possibility of the government was being permanently weakened, political power. So there was a knee-jerk reaction, and of course we had some troubles on the streets at that time. So there was a knee-jerk reaction to rectify the situation, and the new economic policy was crafted up, I think, in a bit of a hurry. So again, it was to meet a political expediency. That's how it started.
Sometimes I wonder whether what we call today such political disturbances, whether those are what today we call red flag. Let's leave it at that. I'm diverging.
Yeah.
So continue, please.
So okay, let's fast forward a little bit because we have only about over an hour to discuss. So Dr. Mahathir embarked on this major change the map of the earth kind of policies, which he thought would fix a lot of things in the country, especially to bring up the economy of the Malays and the Bumiputras, which you mentioned just now. So he thought that one of the ways to expedite the transformation of the Malays to create what was called a BCIC, the Bumiputra Commercial and Industrial Community, was to embark on large-scale government-owned or government-initiated industrial projects, which he thought would help to level the playing field and make the Bumiputras and the Malays competitive and at the same level as others in the country. So he embarked on these projects, industries and so on.
Did we institutionalize that in law?
No, he just allocated the funds for it and got them started. But these things had major impacts. Major impacts. Like just now I mentioned, rule number one, they made economic policies without any underlying theory or basis in the textbooks. There's no theory behind it. It was more political gimmickry. The other thing that went wrong is that the use of taxpayers' funds. Of course, if the government wants to do anything, it has to use taxpayers' funds. But here you have a situation where the government started using taxpayers' money to set up industries. To set up industries under the Affirmative Action, the new economic policy. And these industries, ultimately, many of them, they were kicked off using government funds. More often than not, they would provide services or products which were also, where the consumer was also the government. The government bought back products and services, especially in services. The government was the customer. And more often than not, or frequently, some of these industries and businesses set up by the government ran into financial difficulty. And again, they were bailed out using taxpayers' funds. So we have 3 rounds of taxpayers' funds here. You have the initial seed capital, the startup, using taxpayers' money. Often the services are sold back to the government, taxpayers' money. And when they get into financial difficulties, they are bailed out again using taxpayers' money. That's 3 rounds of taxpayers' funds.
Can I add to that a bit?
Yeah, please.
As well? I think the other part as well, that they become somewhat monopolistic and or at least what you call an oligarchy of the few, where actually these businesses had no competition or being limited in terms of competition, and therefore they are allowed to actually also be not as vigorously competitive, and therefore they can lose money for all they care, and then they get bailed out.
Exactly. They then the other point is that over the years, the presence of GLCs, government-linked corporations, basically government-funded enterprise, has they occupy substantial space in many sectors in the economy.
Yeah.
Like as you mentioned, in banking, it's an oligopoly, and the government-owned banks or government GLC-owned banks are big players in the banking sector. So this has created another issue, another problem which many people don't see.
Oh, it's a big problem. I think
to me it's a problem because what it has done is, you see, the government collects taxes from taxpayers, and corporate taxpayers, I think, are the largest contributors of tax revenue to the government. So the government collects tax revenue from taxpayers, and then it uses part of that money to set up businesses and industries which compete against the same corporations who pay taxes to the government. So the taxpayers, they are the goose that lays the golden egg, especially corporations. Corporations are big taxpayers. They are the goose that lays the golden egg. You take some of those golden eggs and you set up businesses and industries to compete against your taxpayers. Yeah. So in other words, you're putting your own taxpayers out of business. So over the years, which you mentioned just now, 30, 40, 50 years, that's a lot of businesses, genuine businesses, who have been facing, I would say, undue competition from government-owned businesses, government-licensed oligopolies, monopolies, which you mentioned, by using their own tax contributions. So over the years, I'm sure there were businessmen, entrepreneurs, businesses that did not happen. There was that steel mill that did not happen. There was that bank that has not happened. The new industry that has not happened because some businessmen, some entrepreneurs, some company or corporation realize that I can't compete with the big boys, government-funded GLCs who are already in this industry, so I can't compete with them. So over the years, the economy has not grown as much as it should have if there was no taxpayers' money siphoned out, taxpayers' money channeled by the government to compete against genuine taxpayers in business. So you put your own taxpayers out of business.
Well, I think New York City is about to find out from their good old new, depend on who you talk to, socialist or commie mayor, Mr. Mamdani, when he talks about setting up shops by the government and public transport by the government against regular tax-paying businesses and taxing people more. So we'll find that out from that side. But we've learned our lesson. Continue, please, my friend. This is interesting.
There are some businesses, some industries, infrastructure,
right,
which is extremely difficult for private sector initiative. For example, you rarely find a private company who will be willing to build a hydroelectric dam. It's just too much money and the risks are very high. The returns are extremely low. An airport generates, I think, when I was a banker, it was less, about 3%, 2% return a year, even when they became profitable. That's very, very low returns. Not the kind of returns that can attract private investors. Private investors want returns. Rule of thumb is if the fixed deposit in your country pays X%. If you're a businessman with any kind of business acumen, you should be able to do at least 3 times better than fixed deposit. Otherwise, let's all put money in the
bank
fixed deposit and don't work.
Yeah.
If you can do 3-4 times better, then you start a business. This is where infrastructure projects, their return is about the fixed deposit. It's very low. So inevitably, the government has to pioneer the construction of roads, dams, bridges, highways, power stations. Power stations now, they're being privatized. So there are certain sectors of the economy where you cannot expect private sector to lead the way. Government may have to step in, but you have to do it in a way that does not create giants, not blood-sucking, cash-sucking giants.
Cash-sucking squids.
Endless bottomless pits, where you have to throw in cash to keep the projects going.
Sounds like a vampire pit.
Because what happens is always there's only so much resources in an economy. The amount of cash that you have right now in your wallet, the amount of cash that I have in my wallet, the amount of cash that we have in the bank, all these are the resources of our economy, of our country. Yeah. Each individual's resources totals up to become the resource of the entire economy. So it's how you allocate these resources such that they generate a fair return on the money. So if you take excessively from the taxpayer and you invest it in projects and things that you do which does not generate that return, or you overpaid for it, then as a whole, that economy has lost returns. It's like, let me just go back to the famous National Car Project. All right? The National Car Project. Dr. Mahathir set up the National Car Project. So it was taxpayer funded. It took
completely
billions of our ringgits. Okay,
right.
So he started producing the national car, which was a Japanese car rebadged. Okay, fine. Then to protect this national car, we impose
140% tariffs at least?
Tariffs on other imported cars, tariffs and excise duties. They had different names for it. Tariffs, import duties, excise duties, different names, but it all means the same thing. It's a tax. So as a result of which, the price of imported cars went up to the sky.
Yeah.
Which enabled the locally manufactured national car to compete. Otherwise, they couldn't compete. So we didn't know exactly what would have been the real market price of those national cars if they had not been such high tariff protection. It could have been cheaper. So meaning that the Malaysian consumer was being shortchanged because we were buying cars way above the market price.
We basically subsidized the local manufacturer.
Money went out of our pocket. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So it's like,
twice.
Even the national car, it was sold at a certain price. It was cheap compared to imported cars
Because of the tariffs.
Because of the tariffs, you raise the prices of the imported cars.
Right.
But could the national car have been sold at a much cheaper price if it had the volumes, the sufficient volume to lower its unit cost and things like that? We do not know, but I suspect we paid a much higher price even for the national car, and we certainly paid double, triple the market price for imported cars.
I think it's practically triple. If I was to take my experience of buying a car in Australia, even with the exchange rate, I found that actually I was paying almost 3 times more in Malaysia for the same car, relatively same car, but actually of higher standard in Australia compared to Malaysia, with a lower exchange rate in Malaysia.
I have always, I'm a fan of Mercedes. And Mercedes has always sold at that time. I think it has improved slightly now, but they used to go for as much as 3-4 times the world market price here. So when you buy one Mercedes in Malaysia, it's like buying 3 Mercedes or 4 Mercedes in California or Australia or someplace else.
Which is nuts.
Which was nuts. And that policy is still in place because all the import barriers, the tariffs on imported
and the non-tariff
cars,
barriers, let's not forget about the APs.
Correct.
Which is, in order for you to import a car, you have to have an approved permit license, which are only allocated to certain individuals or companies.
These barriers and all, they're still there. But what happened was, the cartoon or the we have seen in on TV, on the movies, American cartoon, there's a fat guy, he's smoking a fat cigar, and he's lighting his cigar with a $10 bill. The rich guy, he's burning money. He can afford to burn money.
Scrooge McDuck.
He lights up a cigar with a $10 US bill. That is what we were doing. We could have paid X and got a car, a fairly decent car, but imported car. But we were paying double X or triple X for the same car as the world market prices. So we were lighting our cigars with $10 bills. We had money to burn. Because a same person as us who lives in another country, he's just like us. He's got 2 hands and 2 legs. He went to school, he went to college, went to university. He's got a job, he's got a family. He gets up at 9 in the morning, works until 5 in the evening, earns an income, and he goes home. And a certain portion of his income goes towards buying a vehicle, a car. A car is an absolute necessity, I think, anywhere in the world, except Singapore, I think. But the same guy in Malaysia paid 2 times and 3 times the amount as the other person just to own a car. So his resources, as I said just now, the amount of money, cash you have in your pocket and my pocket, it's all the total economic resources of the country. A substantial portion of these resources were actually being wasted because we wanted to support this idea of a national car. So we were basically impoverishing.
Let me ask you a question then.
We were basically, if I may finish, we were basically impoverishing our
own people
to sustain this Dr. Mahathir's dream of creating a national car, which eventually failed. The point that you were saying just now, the second round, the third round, we bailed it out. More than once.
The first time is that we funded the creation by our tax money of that particular industry, which is a singular manufacturing owned by the government. All right. And then we funded it again by our additional payment of the protectionist tariffs that protected the car. And then we funded it again when it failed and it had to be bailed out. So that's basically 3 levels of funding.
3 levels of funding, and I think it was bailed out more than once.
Oh yeah, obviously. And I think actually,
finally we sold it. Okay.
At a song, and let's put it this way as well. I think you were talking about banking, right? There was after the Asian financial crisis of what?
98, 2000.
98,
97, 2000.
97, 98,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They thought that we needed banks that are too big to fail, right? And we did a consolidation of a bunch of our banks, and we end up with what, like 5 major banks for the whole country?
The anchor banks, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is 7 or 8.
7 or 8.
I can't. The numbers may have changed a bit now, but
Right.
yeah. just
So
a few,
we
very few.
basically also lost a lot of what I would call the second tier banks and that are closer to the customers, closer to the local businesses. So what you would call, we practically decimated the community banks. The community banks that understand the businesses that they were funding.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I think we have lost that. And actually, any economy, if you look at it, the small and medium industries are the one that actually are powering your economy. It's not the big companies.
Nope. You're
You
right.
know?
You're right.
So we have lost that as well through this, all this, what do you call, what was the word you used just now? These gimmicks,
Yes, gimmicks.
you know?
Okay, this one, if I may.
Sure.
I was a banker. I still consider myself a banker. So I was there when the consolidation of the banking industry happened. You see, before the consolidation, up to the 80s, late 90s, we had quite a robust banking and financial
Yeah, we
system.
did, yes.
Very robust. And from what I have seen, I know there's no exact empirical evidence, but generally, remember those days we had 8% growth and 9% growth. That happened before the consolidation of the banking sector.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming it exactly on the consolidation of the banking sector, but since we consolidated the banking industry early 2000, we've had the growth rates that we have now, the 5s and the
3s.
the plus minus.
If we get 4, we're happy.
We don't have those robust growth rates which we had in the 80s and 90s when we were called a tiger economy of Asia, because we were regularly doing 7%, 8%, we hit 9%. That was when the banking sector in the country, as you mentioned, was very diversified. And we had a whole spectrum of banks in the country. You had the commercial banks, the big boys, so to speak, who provide a full range of banking facilities. Then you had the smaller players called the finance companies. And finance companies were dotted all over the country. They were in every other town. There were local finance companies. You would only find in Perak, a couple of branches in,
or in Penang.
One in Ipoh or Penang. That's it. Localized. What you call community banking. Then you had this even smaller guys, the credit and leasing companies.
Yes.
If some young woman entrepreneur in some small town wants to set up a hairdresser's shop, hairdressing business, she will go to the local credit and leasing company, and at that time she might get a loan of 10,000, 5,000 ringgit. It's small business loans with which she will use to set up her hairdressing salon. Those swiveling chairs and the hair dryers, she might have a couple of those. It's enough for her to get started. This system, this was a niche banking, boutique banking, because, for example, the credit and leasing companies, they were localized. They were localized outfits, very small town outfits where everybody knows everybody else. So it is basically people having faith in their own community members, and the funds are also derived from the same community, so that the funds circulate inside their community, and they know the risk.
Yes.
Is this person a good risk, business risk, financial risk? If I give her the loan, will she pay it back to me? Or they might get, her daddy.
And the rates were adjustable to what it is appropriate.
They might get her daddy or her husband to be the guarantor, because the local community all knows each other.
Yeah.
So this was like community self-help. And these were the smaller banking and financial institutions which existed in this country. So as I said, you got credit and leasing companies, finance companies, you had commercial banks, then you had merchant banks and things like that. So the economy functioned very well, and you are spot on. The economy is SME. In any country in the world, even in the US, it is the small, medium industries which are the engines of the economy. And they need access to quick credit, because no credit, no economic growth. Now, with the consolidation of the banking industry in the early 2000s, we wiped out the entire finance ecosystem of finance companies, credit and leasing. There were over 50 commercial banks in the country. We basically forced them into mergers and consolidated them, and then now there's so few. As I said, less than 10.
And a few
banks.
People benefit out of it.
And then we created this huge banking oligopoly now.
All right.
So banking in the country is now an oligopoly, and very few of these big bankers operate throughout the country. We have very few banks now in Malaysia which have branch operations throughout the entire country, and some of them have branches throughout the entire country, but only in the state capitals and maybe in some of the larger towns. They may not have branches in
and not just throughout. That, they're not willing to take the risk.
Today, if you are in another state like Perak or something, or somewhere else, and let's say you want a business loan, sometimes you'd have to come to KL, to the Klang Valley, to Kuala Lumpur, to talk to HQ here to get a loan, especially if it's a sizably larger business loan, because the local outfit may not have the capacity, or may not have the expertise or the staffing to handle such big loans.
Say, can I tell you something from my own personal experience as an entrepreneur?
I know you've borrowed tens of millions of ringgit.
Yeah, yes. I mean, when I first started in the small business, when I first started my business, it was a small business. I started out with about 200,000 ringgit worth of capital, right? And it was a smaller bank that actually supported me, and help, really truly help build it up, because they took the time to understand the business. The branch manager took the time to understand the business, to understand who you are, to take the credit risk on you, and effectively nurture you. But you don't have this anymore. What I found that with the consolidation is then they have, because I think they were abusers at a higher level, that actually they purportedly wanted to have an arm's length approach, that actually certain district level will handle the evaluation and risk assessment. So they were out of the hands of the branch managers already. They don't even know your business. And for a lot of time, they don't even want to meet you, because if they meet you, they seem to the letter of the law or the procedure is that then they open themselves up to being corrupt because they know you. So you see, it becomes it becomes completely negative to the business ecosystem altogether.
Well, it's not worth their time. You see, when you have so few banks in the country, and the bankers are given targets, KPIs.
Yeah, that's another point. You're right.
So let's say a bank cannot have thousands and thousands of credit officers. It only has maybe a few hundreds or whatever. So let's say that you're a bank officer and two people call you. One fellow wants like a 20 million ringgit loan, and the other fellow wants a 2 million ringgit loan or a 200,000 ringgit loan. And you only have so many working hours in a day. You're going to answer the call of the guy who wants the 20 million ringgit loan. Or is it 200 million? The bigger loan.
Yeah. The return is bigger.
The bigger. Your bonus is secured. Because you only have so many working hours in a day. And the borrowers cannot go to, they don't have much choice because there are not many banks in the country. So this is what we have set up, oligopoly. And we have to link this back to the political gimmickry. This consolidation of the banking sector, there was some other thinking behind it, which is tied to politics, which in our country we know it as ketuanan politics. Somebody felt that if the GLCs get involved in banking, and the GLCs are the biggest players in banking now, if you control the banking, you get to control many things.
Exactly.
Because as I mentioned, in this country, we have political patronage.
Yeah.
Political patronage
I don't think that political patronage is is a special feature of Malaysia. I've seen, and I'm gonna expound on this. I see political patronage even in a country like America. It is, but it is done in a slightly more.
But here it is taken to the extreme.
Oh yeah,
It is taken to the extreme because not only if you control the banks, not only can you assist people who can assist you, you can also take out your enemies. So to make a
you
long
can
story
debank
short,
your enemies as well.
that's what I'm trying to say. You can, to make a long story short, it has become too embroiled with politics and who's in power, banking industry. Yeah. So this is where the idea of business and free market, open market competition, and businesses deciding what is good for them, all that has gone out the window.
The window. Yeah.
We are basically, everything is decided by the politicians and the political leadership. They determine how many banks there will be in the country. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a country where, let's say, how many shoe stores should you have in a town decided by a politician? Because a shoe store selling shoes is exactly the same as a bank. Is a business. There is risk, there is competition, there is organization, there is capital involved, there is labor, you need staff. It's just a business. But here you have politicians deciding on policy, how many banks we should have in the country, how many, the business that you are involved in, how many oil supply bases.
Actually, also, I think part of the way they do that is regulation. They pile regulation, they create regulation, and this regulation is intentionally due to limit competition and to funnel taxpayers' fund.
On the dot. That has become the trademark of the new economic policy, or one of the trademarks over the last 50 years. There is no competition. Either you remove competition from the equation or you shield the players from competition. So oligopolies are shielded from full market competition. Monopolies, we have massive government granted monopolies which
and subsidies
going on and on for decades. We cannot have this conversation without talking about the toll roads, the toll concessions. I was just reading in Indonesia, they had a bridge.
So these we're talking about the highways and our highways.
In Indonesia, they also built some bridges and they had a toll net. And I think our former minister Syed Ibrahim was there in Bali somewhere where he went on this bridge, which he says was built, as a toll bridge. But the toll, after X amount of time, the toll was it came to an end. There's no more toll, abolished, because the concession ended and there's no more toll. So now the bridge is free to the people. But not in our country. In our country, we had the toll concessions. They went on for the first 20
years
plus years.
Yeah.
And then they got extended.
Right.
And it is extended until today. And I think the major toll concessions have been extended into late 2050s, if I'm not mistaken. It's certainly beyond 2030s and going to 2050s. So they seem to be never ending. Whereas, the original cost of building a certain stretch of toll road, they have already collected enough revenue to pay off the bank debt they borrowed money from the banks to build the toll road. Those bank debts have been paid. They must be, otherwise it would be a bad debt. So they've paid off. They settled their bank debts. But then, because these companies, concession operators, they had other financial requirements and commitments, or they needed more funds and things like that. And they made additions and renovations to the toll roads. Maybe they've added an extra lane and this and that. But ultimately, all these things led to the concessions being extended. To me now, it's like quite endlessly, But we don't have a choice because, again, these are monopolies and oligopolies. There are few players. And over the years, more or less the same players, all licensed by the government. But it is the people who end up paying endlessly. There's a cost to all this, which we will discuss later. So this has been basically what has come to be known as the new economic policy, although no one refers to it now because let's not forget the new economic policy was the baby of the Barisan National government, and UMNO especially. So now other parties do not refer to it anymore, but the policies are still in place. Nothing has changed.
You know what? I wonder. I mean, I think if we go back to the root cause of all this is, as you said, I mean, the new economic policy where it was masked in a sense of empathy and masked in a sense of affirmative action to bring up a group of people, right? That was felt to be underprivileged. Now, I have a bit of a...
That was the original intent, which I think has been railroaded, gone off the rails.
Well, here's the thing that I find very, very interesting. In a sense that I don't know how to put it, because I think affirmative action has been hijacked in essence, in totality, right?
By the politics.
Yeah. Right.
It's no more the original affirmative action. It's not anymore.
I think if you were to, we are about the same age. When we talk about affirmative action, I don't know. The only time I remember my affirmative action that has helped me is that I was taken out from rural schooling, right, and put into better schools with better teachers that provided me with solid education that allowed me to then excel in school and exams, and then allowed me to actually go and compete even for places in America without a quota system. So I came back in 1986, which was also a period of recession. And there were no jobs given out by the government, if you remember that period, right? So you are on scholarship, but there were no jobs to hand out to you for you to serve your scholarship period. So I had to, and there were people who were given internship by the government at a minimal level, you know, just to keep up the happiness of this minority group of people, right? But I ended up, because I didn't want to take that route, I took the route of actually being a salesperson, more doing field engineering, sales work. Half of my time were doing sales, you know, at about the same amount of money. And I've never worked for a government-linked company or whatever, all this that this so-called affirmative action has provided. So I work for multinationals. So my question is this, actually. As long as I think you provide that fundamental education as affirmative action and allow opportunity for people to be hired based on merit, I think things work out.
Okay.
Well, I mean, but
education was perhaps one of the most successful areas of the new economic policy at that time. Now it is debatable. And what you are describing, education, that you benefited from education, was that you were not lighting cigars with $10 bills at the time. You see, so the return on the investment was very high.
Yes.
Because money was well spent.
Yeah.
If you studied in America, you know, then it is at market, as you said, you have to qualify to get in.
Right.
You have to maintain your GPAs to graduate. You have to pay fees same as everybody else. You know, everything is at market. So the return on the investment in education that you benefited from has multiplied. But the same does not apply in projects and industries and businesses that Dr. Mahathir took the country into at
We
the time.
did that actually even earlier on with education. We lowered the standard of education for university entrance in Malaysia, so that a certain identity of people can come in. We lower the standard of graduation.
Yeah.
And then we lower the standard for them to actually enter the civil service and also companies.
I don't know about the lowering the standards for graduation. It's debatable, but that only affected a portion of the population, but the Bumiputras, the Malays.
Yeah.
The bulk of the country, the economy was managed by the non-Malays, non-Bumiputras until today. So we need to do some arithmetic there. But what you are saying is,
And then when you say about this gimmick of the economic system, where we set up these government-linked companies and we set up these oligopolies and all that, they're all meant by this segment of people that had this standards lowered.
So ultimately, yes, it is a snowballing effect.
It is.
And the return on investment gets lower and lower. So let's just go back to the banking example, because I believe it has impoverished the people, the economy, the people. People like to talk about economy, the country economy. It's actually human beings.
Yeah.
It's impoverished the human beings. When they consolidated the banking system early 2000, and we have never had those high growth rates anymore since banking consolidation. We don't get 7, 8%, 9%. It's not going to come back unless we deregulate and liberalize the banking system to what it was before. Let me give you an example. In Malaysia, just now we were talking that there are very few of these anchor banks. We have less than 10. So, I don't know the exact numbers, was it 7 or 8? There are very few anchor banks. And they don't care about the little guys anymore because it's not worth their time. It's not a crime they're committing. If you're a bank officer, as I said, you only have so many hours of working hours in a day. Between a 200 million loan and a 200,000 loan, the 200,000 guy, don't call me.
They don't have a chance
That's it.
Of snow in hell.
And there's so few banks in the country. So you see in Singapore, today in Singapore, you have the local banks in Singapore. There are quite a few of them also. There are 5 big ones. But they have over 100 foreign banks who operate in Singapore. 100. And
I didn't know that.
And those who qualify can set up, they call it the full banking services. That means like if you go to Singapore, every other MRT station, there's a Bank of America. They're everywhere, just like in San Francisco. In the US, they make fun. They say that there's no, Bank of America is like a pizza and there's one in every corner. They say some other things also. But in Singapore, there are over 100 banks. When I say banks, I mean separate banking names, right? Each of these banks may have branches.
I still remember Ban Hinley.
So in Singapore, they have a huge number of banks, different banks by name, and each one of them may have multiple branches throughout Singapore. Citibank, Bank of America, these are all foreign banks. Now, in Singapore, they have their population is about 6 over million. Their working population is under 4 million, about 3.7 million. And the banking sector in Singapore employs over 200,000 people. And the banking sector in Singapore is the highest paying industry in the country. The average monthly income in the banking industry in Singapore is about almost 9,000 Sing dollars a month. That's about 29,000 ringgit Malaysian in Singapore. Malaysia, with a population of 34 million, we have those anchor banks. There's less than 10 anchor banks or 7 or 8. We have a few other foreign banks. Foreign banks are limited to one branch. To my knowledge, there may be, Bank of China may have more than one, maybe 1 or 2 branches. But I'm sorry, they're not limited to one branch. They are limited in opening branches. That's right. It's very difficult. So anyway, in Malaysia with 34 million people, we have hardly 200,000 people workforce in the banking industry. It's only about less than 200,000 in the entire banking industry. If we liberalize our banking system, deregulate, liberalize to match Singapore, to match what we had before, 34 million population, I think we can sustain. You can double up that banking workforce. You can go up easily 500,000 workforce in the banking industry, maybe more. And again, just like in Singapore, the banking industry in Malaysia now, the average income is about 7,000 ringgits in the banking sector. Because nowadays, even a brand new graduate earns about 3,000 ringgit in the banking sector. So those with the average income is about over 7,000 ringgit. So imagine instead of having less than 200,000 people with average income of 7,000 ringgit, you have 500,000 workers in the banking sector, or 600,000 or 700,000, all making the same 7,000 ringgit.
So why don't they do that?
I don't know why they can't seem to understand this, So we are a country with 34 million people that is underbanked.
Yeah.
That 22-year-old girl who wants to start a hairdressing salon in some little town in Malaysia, she cannot easily find someone to finance her 20,000 ringgit today's prices, or 30,000 ringgit.
So they go to loan sharks.
They go to loan sharks. They go to families and this and that. Bottom line is, it's difficult. It's difficult. I know a guy, a person who I'm sure will be listening to this podcast. He set up an industry to make compost, compost material. And he was trying to get this loan from a bank. It took him years to get it processed, because they were not really, he was not priority for the bank. They took their time. It took him years, and finally I think he got his loan, but his business was, crawling, and he couldn't hire extra staff. He couldn't buy that extra truck. He couldn't expand. He couldn't get this equipment. He had to wait for the financing, because of course, and he's located in a rural area where there are no banks, very few banks. He had to go to the nearest big town, talk to the banks there. So his choices were limited. Bottom line, that person who should have grown his business 4 years, 5 years earlier had to wait 4 years, 5 years later. So you multiply that throughout the economy, and that's why we're only getting this measly 4%, 5% growth.
But then again, that also has another impact, because the situation has changed, for his business as well, because 4 or 5 years, in 4 or 5 years, the business condition change, and that's one of the things that we don't take into consideration. You want to go, when you go into business, timing is important. Timing is everything, and that's another part of it, that actually, effectiveness of giving out loans, effectiveness of being able to invest at the right time, at the right place is important. So we lose all that as well.
We have lost so much.
Yeah.
We have lost so much, and our politicians cannot seem to be able to connect the dots.
Or do you think they don't care?
I think they don't understand what's going on. But even if they do, I think the perks of being in charge, for example, banking, it's government control, it's a GLC oligopoly. I think the perks and the macho of being in charge of so much wealth is just too enticing.
And burning the ringgit on the cigar.
They just salivate. They are just drooling at the amount of power that you have. Imagine something as huge as the largest bank in the country that I used to work for them. They are huge. Their single borrower's limit is in the billions of ringgit, and ultimately is answerable to the political masters. So the political masters have tremendous amount of financial muscle in our country, in our economy of 34 million people. Would you want to give up that kind of that kind of power. You see, this is the question. I want to ask you. You were a businessman. You were a corporate businessman. Did you ever get a loan from Labuan?
No,
Do you know what Labuan is?
I know. This it's supposed to be set up
So
as an offshore.
do you know any of your friends, Malaysians, Malays, Bumiputra businessmen who have benefited from Labuan? Did they take out any kind of financing or funding?
To be honest, I've never heard of one. Okay,
See,
I mean,
this
I may
exactly-
be, and I mean,
this
it
is,
may be. I'm not saying in
Okay,
the affirmative
this
that
is,
there are none, but for me personally, who has actually built from a medium scale business to even big scale business, I've never done that. In fact, my biggest funding at a point when we corporatize the company and we are buying hundreds of million worth of assets, our biggest funder was actually not from Malaysia. Most of the I would say 100% of the funding at that particular time, which was around 2000 to 2008, was funded from banks that are actually local to Singapore.
Okay, but so you see, we set up this Labuan offshore financial center. Again, I call this the gimmickry. It's all gimmicks, Not,
We
not-
love gimmicks,
not-
don't we?
Not serious, not serious. They set up the Labuan offshore financial center, and I was in banking when they set it up, and okay, it's still there, and a lot of well, not too many foreign banks opened up offices in Labuan. But it's just a nameplate office. It's just an office with a name on the door. They have some stuff, but the real work was done from KL. So a lot of Japanese banks they call them representative officers. They were based here in Kuala Lumpur, and that's where the real offshore banking
Was
took
carried
place.
out, yeah.
So Labuan was just a nameplate, and until today it's like that. It has not really taken off. But what is offshore banking, offshore financial center? You don't need an island to set up an offshore financial center. Offshore, you don't need an island
I know.
with a beach going around it,
Right.
a shoreline for
Oh,
you to call it
we have-
offshore. But offshore banking basically means being able to do banking in multiple currencies. And Singapore has been, in that sense, an offshore financial center
Yep.
for a long time.
Yep.
In Singapore, you can get loans in multiple currencies. Usually it's US dollars. It's usually most of the time it's US dollars, which is what it means. So you don't need an island, to set up foreign currency lending. You can license local banks here or banks operating here in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia, to do banking in multiple currencies, US dollars. And supposing you have Malaysian companies that want to invest overseas, they want to buy an asset and they will earn in foreign currency. Last week, one of our local corporates is buying a hotel in New Zealand, I think for like 300 million or something. So they will be spending New Zealand dollars, they will be earning revenue in New Zealand dollars. If you allow banks in the country to make foreign currency loans, these are the people who might benefit. So instead of them having to borrow in New Zealand where they may not yet have a track record, they can go to a local bank who knows them better, but is allowed to lend money to them in foreign currency, specifically to invest in assets which will generate that same currency matching.
Returns, yeah.
Currency matching. You don't borrow in you don't borrow in US dollars
And earn ringgit.
and earn ringgit to build a factory in Malaysia and earn ringgit. Along the way, you will have to commit suicide because foreign currency risk is extremely high. But these are the things that Singapore does,
Yeah.
Or if you have a local exporter who sells microchips, to wherever, to Taiwan, to Korea, to US or wherever, and they earn US dollars, and they need to buy raw materials to manufacture the microchips in Malaysia, and the raw materials come from overseas. They also pay in US dollars, so you can allow them to borrow in US dollars from a foreign currency account. Borrow in US dollars, use the money to buy the raw materials, process it, ship it out, earn US dollars, and then you settle off, you see. So that's what is
That's
called
the whole thing.
offshore
banking.
Offshore banking.
Yeah.
You don't need an island for that.
I know.
Now, we have not done this. If you so I asked you, have you ever benefited from Labuan? What I meant was, have you ever taken a foreign currency
No,
loan?
because why? We did the foreign currency loan from Singapore.
So
And
Labuan, it has not helped you. To my knowledge, Labuan has not helped our Malaysian businessmen especially much. I think even if their numbers, they are dismal. Nothing compared to, let's say, Singapore or other places.
No, you have to. You know what it is that actually it goes back to another part. Maybe you want to touch this or not. I'm not too sure, Syed. But when you spoke to me about this, what resonate is this part that I had to go through during the 2000s, and I see here today as well, which is regulation and excessive regulation. One, secondly is regulations that are imposed, like you say, is gimmickry, is fetish, it's based on trend that they read from Western journals, or and then they think that this is the way they have to do it. But by the time they do it, the developed industries have already realized their mistake.
So bottom line is we have talked about government intervention in business, in industry, consolidation of banking. You spoke a bit about education. Bottom line is it either restricts maximum restricts maximum growth, or impoverishes the people, the economy, prevents us from achieving maximum potential. So today, after 30, 40, 50 years of these policies, unchanging policies, we have the many issues and problems that we have in this country now. Sluggish economic growth is major. To me, at 4% economic growth, 4% or even 5%, it's like just waiting for the sun to shine and the rain to come down from the sky.
Yeah, with the GDP that we have, that's not the...
And the grass to grow. You don't need to do anything. If you don't do anything, as long as there's sunshine, there's rain, and the wind is blowing, the sun rises, I think you will get 3%, 4% economic growth. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
What we want is something better than that. We want to be a tiger. To be a tiger, you have to be proactive. You have to do the right policies. Then you have those 7, 8, 9%. Otherwise, let's just relax.
I think
nature take its own course. If we get 3%, 4% growth.
Can you imagine just on two things based on what you're saying? I'll contribute one part which has been a very big part of how I've been looking at what's the problem. You mentioned banking, and I totally agree with you on that is a major structural problem that we have in the country, which basically means allocation of capital, right?
Our resources.
They are.
Yeah. Taxpayers' money.
Right. The other part that actually really bugs me a lot, because I see that as actually a waste of capital, is the cost of doing business. And the regulation is cost of doing business. Imagine today, I think my biggest probably my biggest pet peeve is this imposition of ESG and ESG compliance to the banking system and also to businesses. The cost of that compliance that provide no productive growth to any business whatsoever, not just growth, it does not provide anything in terms of the bottom line except for increasing costs. And at the same time, the developed world led by America at the moment is to actually deregulate everything. No subsidies or removals.
We have totally missed the boat on that. You're right. It's all about deregulation and increasing competition. You really need to have the free market.
Exactly.
And once you don't have the free market, you intervene in the free market, costs go up. Go up.
We are just
Costs go up.
We're just piling costs on everything.
And it's getting more difficult to do business. And the worst thing is that the next generation, that 25-year-old people who want to be entrepreneurs or who should be entrepreneurs, who want to think up new businesses, ideas, they are thwarted. They are deflected away from doing what they should be doing because of all these constraints and restraints that exist in the economy, which you are talking about. So that fellow who would have started that particular business did not start it. So 5 years, 10 years later, maybe he could have employed 50 people. It didn't happen. So today we have increased unemployment among the graduates. Our graduates cannot find jobs. Not all of them can find jobs or jobs that are suitable with their qualification. We have an unemployment issue. We have sluggish growth in the economy. It's not enough to sustain our population, which is growing every year. So now you got this gig economy. They're saying about a couple of million people or 2 million people.
That's sad,
That's sad. That means that the economy cannot provide a permanent slot for their skills.
Yeah.
Like jigsaw
And not
puzzle.
just that, there is no career path and no upscaling of skills.
We train them. You send them to school for 11 years. You send them to university for 4 years and things like that. They've come out and they cannot find a niche in the economy where they can sell their skills and move on from there. That gap is getting further apart. So this is the problem in the country. And now with all kinds of wild things going on, AI and all this.
Yeah.
I was listening to this Indian man a few days back. He's a national security advisor for India. Quite a guy who knows a lot of stuff. He says it took like 1 million years. It took like more than 1 million years for the human race to invent fire, from the caveman days and all that. And it took thousands of years after that, hundreds of thousands of years for us humans to melt the first metal, the metal age, the bronze age, whatever. It gets shorter.
Yeah, it gets shorter every time.
After the Industrial Revolution, the pace is accelerating. So he says AI is now brand new. AI. He says the impact of AI will be 24 months. There'll be major changes in economies in the next 24 months because of AI. So that is the pace of change.
Yeah.
But we are still at the crawling level. How many banks in this country? How many supply bases, your industry, how many supply bases we will have in the country? Only 4 allowed. This agar wood, in Malay we call it gaharu.
Oh, okay.
You need a license.
What you call incense.
You need a license to grow a tree.
Really?
Yeah. To grow an agar wood plantation, you need a license. And I think there's a restriction on the number of agar wood processing factories in the country. I think
Why?
only 4. This is the system that we have. In Vietnam, the entrepreneurs there, plantation owners, they plant agar wood by the thousands of acres. It's free. You want it, go ahead, you plant it.
Yeah.
Because it's a very expensive
over
wood.
here, they plant durian trees and somebody come take over.
So you see, over here, you mentioned just now, we are over-regulated. We are, just restricted left, right, and center. Bottom line, it impoverishes our country.
Our people.
Our people. Let's not forget, the beginning, the middle, and the end of it all is the people. The people, not this industry or that industry. We want to be whatever, This is the people, the human beings. We are impoverishing our people.
I find
because of this ridiculous policy.
Well, just not the impoverishing in that way. As you mentioned, that our tax dollars are being used to fund these government-linked companies, and they all sit very comfortably with high salaries. And then when they fail, they get bailed out again by taxpayers. And then you have you have a bunch of younger people that has to come out and struggle because why? The allocation of capital has gone to all this oligarchy and monopoly, right? That you cannot provide competitive small and medium scale industries that actually should be able to be thriving and powering our growth, right?
Without having the need for taxpayers' funds.
Correct. Right?
They can go on their own.
I know. And I mean, it really bothers my mind a lot. And I see what and I see what Trump is doing and why I am so supportive of what Trump policies are. I'll give you one example, right? For every regulation that you bring to him that you want to implement, he insists that 10 regulations must be dismantled. Okay? That's just a simple fact. Simple requirement. That's a businessman way of thinking. All right? Secondly, when he came into office, he already warned everybody, I'm going to deregulate. He already warned everybody, I'm not going to give subsidies for renewables. Because if you are actually economically competitive, you should be able to live without subsidies. I think Elon Musk was pretty pissed off because of that as well. All right? But he doesn't care. Okay? The other part that I find very interesting is that the biggest cost of doing business is regulation and energy. So he made sure that the energy cost is low. So hence come the baby drill policies, right? So today we are actually literally looking at the pump price, the gas pump price in America becoming actually maybe 50% lower than what it used to be under Biden, right? This is a reality. And the Democrats don't want to talk about it because why? It shows to the people what the hell is happening. So here we are in our own country. And he basically dismantled the whole ESG complex.
Our problem is our problem is in this country is a bit more severe, more serious, more difficult.
Brother.
Because it is not the business of government to get involved in business.
In business itself. Here's the other thing.
This is our problem.
Here's the other thing. Not just that, right? Because we control, these GLCs are controlling all these businesses that has no competition, right? Imagine how much worse we have made it. When 20% of our GDP is coming from our energy from the ground, and we put regulations and we put costs on top of it, right? To comply with requirements that tells us, oh, I'm not going to fund you if you're going to baby drill. And if you're involved in this part of the economy, it's totally bonkers to me that we are actually telling our banking system, telling our financial market that this is an industry that is 20% of our GDP. Don't fund them. What the hell is going on, man? So I don't know. I mean, we've been talking like this for almost an hour, right? And we are very experienced people. Do people do the powers that be, do policymakers really listen to people like us?
No, they don't. Because I'll be frank, this might sound a bit condescending, but I think it's beyond them. They just don't understand. They don't seem to understand. But the other thing is, there are the perks of power. Because this system helps to maintain the power position and the power equation. So I think the attractiveness of the power, the position, it is so almighty. You control so much resources, financial resources in the country. You don't want to give it up. I'm talking about the politicians now.
Right.
Can we come to the
yeah, sure. Let's try and wrap it up.
So at the end of the day, what happens is that there is impoverishment of the people. People get poorer. It's not actually the money that you have lost. We have lost money. For example, we've been paying through our noses for cars and for a lot of other services. So it's not just the money that we have lost, but I think more damaging is that money that we did not earn.
Yeah.
The lost opportunity, I think, is costing us more and creating more difficulties for us than the money that went out the window, our money, and from our pocket. So the lost opportunities is what it's really capping our future. The future looks uncertain. If you ask, the famous question they ask in America every time the elections come around, are you better off today compared to 4 years ago?
Yes.
If you ask Malaysians here, are you better off today than you were 5 years ago? I don't know. I don't think many people
I
can
think we
answer.
have a consistent answer.
Things are not as good, as great
Yeah.
as how they should be. And you can even ask people,
Every 5 years you'll get the same answer.
Correct. Especially the last 20, 25 years. I think from before 2008, we'll come to that shortly. But also now, if you ask an American, what do you look forward to in the next 4 years? They'll probably go like, okay, things are looking good or better. We hope something like that. But if you ask a Malaysian, what do you expect over the next 5 years? I think that they'll go like, at the best, I don't know. Few people will say, oh, I'm looking forward to a great future. You ask me personally, no, I really don't know, because we don't see that light at the end of the tunnel, because we have been impoverished, the people, for some time. And as I said, it's not just the money that's gone out of our pocket. It's the ringgit that we could not earn because of all these restrictions.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day now, let's bring it to some kind of a conclusion. What does it really mean? And here I hope the politicians are listening. And we have to talk about the Malay voter.
Right.
That's my closing points.
Okay.
You see, all these things that we've been talking about were part of the new economic policy under Dr. Mahathir the first 22 years. Since the Barisan Nasional UMNO was in power since independence. So they have been in power like almost forever until 2018. But you see, none of the policies have changed. Even after the Barisan Nasional lost the elections and various prime ministers have come on board, nothing has changed. In 1999, the BN UMNO lost their seats in parliament. I mean, they didn't lose the elections, but their popularity was going down. Some would argue their popularity started going down even before that. But 99 was like a clear watershed. Their popularity started going down. In 2004, there was a change in Prime Minister. Dr. Mahathir retired 2003, and there was a new Prime Minister, Abdullah Badawi. So there was an election in 2004, and there was an uptick. I think people were hoping for
change.
There was a massive win by the ruling government at the time, the BN government. But within a short time, everybody got totally dejected. They actually got pissed off with the new prime minister. As a result, in 2008, for the first time since independence, 1957, the government lost their 2/3 majority. I think 69 they did not. But in 2008, they lost their 2/3 majority, which was considered a major significant event.
Yeah, for our country, Yeah.
So meaning that the Malay voter had lost faith in everything the Barisan Nasional government had been doing, including the new economic policy. 2008, they lost 2/3 majority. Then the prime minister was asked to leave, and the new prime minister took over. And there was another election in 2013 under the new prime minister, Datuk Najib. Again, the Barisan Nasional lost more seats in parliament, proving that the Malay voter had completely lost faith in whatever policies that had been implemented up to that time, including the ketuanan policies. And then you come to 2018, where they got kicked out. The BN and UMNO lost the elections.
Yeah.
Again, they had lost more Malay votes. It is.
And now what do you think? What is the situation
throughout,
today?
It's the Malay voter losing faith in all the policies implemented by BN and UMNO in all those years. 2018. Then in 2018, Dr. Mahathir came back 2.0 and he was in power for 22 months and he was ousted because he was unpopular. They lost so many by-elections. They lost by-elections. Replaced by the next Prime Minister, was removed after another 1 year, almost 2 years, replaced by another Prime Minister who was also basically lost the elections. And then 2022, which in my view is the most important general elections we have had in this country to date. I think more important than 2008, where the ruling government lost political power after so many years, over 50 years. To me, 2022 was the defining election because in 2022, all the previous players were no more in power and everyone was vying to win the elections, but it was a hung parliament. Nobody won decisively. Again, proving that the Malay voters, I keep saying Malay voter because it's a Malay voter who decides the outcome of the elections. They are the single largest voting bloc. The Malay voter rejected all the parties. They did not give a decisive win for anyone, neither to a Malay-based party, not to a religion Islamic-based party, and not to multicultural parties. So especially the Malay-based parties, Malay politics, and the religion-based parties, none of them could win decisively. At last, the Agong had to step in to uphold his his responsibility to determine the government, which Agong had to step in. But 2022 proves that all the policies that you have done, that have been implemented in this country the previous decades, doesn't hold water with the Malay voters anymore. But throughout this time until today, this is November 2025, none of these policies have changed.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Donald Trump, before the elections last year, he went all out to thrash Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris. He was calling them names like incompetent. I think he even used the word stupid. He was really going all out and thrash them. Imagine Donald Trump wins the election. He became president 21st January this year. And then he says, okay, I'm going to continue all the policies of the Biden administration. Can you imagine a situation that will be insane?
Yeah.
That is what has been happening. Despite the Malays rejecting the policies of the government, ruling party at the time in 2008, 2/3, they lost 2/3. Finally, 2018, they lost. They were kicked out of power. 2022 hung parliament, meaning that Malay voters reject all these policies. It doesn't attract them anymore. The ruling clique, the ruling politicians still continue with exactly same policies. Nothing has changed. I think the only reason I can think of is the perks of power. That's what is motivating them and keeping them going. They're not going to change because they like the trappings. They like the gold thread and the silver thread.
So how do we? How does?
So I think the only way out,
how do we go forward as a country?
No,
we're
a democracy. We're a democracy. The elections are due again in a couple of years. We have the Sabah elections coming soon, and I think the people who advocate these policies, they're not going to win, because you see, on election day, any voter, including the Malay voter, when he goes to vote, he doesn't think like you and me, what we're discussing today. He doesn't go like, what's the price of a car in California versus Malaysia? How many banks are there in the country, the oligarchy? I don't think people think about all this.
No.
All they know is that my son has graduated and he can't get a job.
Yeah.
I have to pay so much every month. There's a holiday coming. I have to go back home to the kampung. I'm going to need so much cash to pay the tolls. and all those things. Life is a challenge. So they go like, I'm working 9 to 5 every day. I obey the laws of the country. I'm a good citizen. I take care of my family. I contribute. And why is life so difficult? Why can't I just kind of make ends meet compared to, let's say, people in other countries, other places, our neighbors in Singapore, things like that. Why is it that we can't? It's so difficult for us. That is what is in their mind. I'm trying to set up a business. I can't get a loan. The bank doesn't want to talk to me. I went to another bank, and there's not too many banks in the country. I had issues with I had an insurance claim to change a windscreen. So insurance claim, and the insurance company is also owned by the banks. So they have their panel of they say, okay, you can fix it. You go to this guy. So I called this guy, and he asked me twice the cost of the windscreen in the market. So I went to and he said, I'm only covered for certain X amount, like 1,000 ringgit, but the charge was more than 1,000, almost 2,000. So the remaining I had to pay. So I went to my mechanic, and my mechanic said, no, I can do it for you less than 1,000 ringgit. So so at the end of the day, I did not claim my insurance.
That's a normal that's a normal story,
So what choice do I have? Do I say, okay, I'm fed up with this, I'm going to go to another bank? I doubt it, because it's an oligarchy. So this is what people feel. Every day they wake up, they go like, there's something stifling us in education, in healthcare, in business, in economics. Anywhere there's a stifling, choking, stranglehold on us. So people are unhappy. So when the election comes, they don't vote for the government. This is what the politicians.
Think so?
Well, I'm looking at. Nobody won a decisive majority in 2022.
Well, at the state level, we are looking at a swing to the religious parties in Kedah, in Terengganu.
Oh, they didn't. They won some, but
in Kelantan.
It's yet to be seen. Sabah is going to be an eye opener. I think. Sabah.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah. You see, like they say, tomorrow is not promised to anyone. The same thing now. The elections in Malaysia are not promised to any one party. 10 years ago, it was different,
Yeah, you can almost take it to the bank.
100%. The Barisan Nasional is going to win. That's it, No more. So this is what the politicians do not seem to understand. They do not seem to understand that the policies that have been placed, the economic policies, especially in this country, the last 50 years, has caused a paradigm shift in voter support, Malay voter support, since 2008, when UMNO lost the two-thirds majority, and before that, and persisting until today with the hung parliament in 2022. There's no more going to be winning big blocks in the parliament, because basically it is the Malay voter who is fed up.
Let me ask you this quick question then as well, because I see another paradox to this. Not a paradigm, but a paradox, right? The non-Malay voting bloc is so scared of the religious party that they are basically entrapped in a situation of a no-win situation. And that, to me, has become another problem in terms of redistributing good policies. Because when they change from the BN party to what we have now, the policies never change either. The non-Malays are not happy either. But they are sort of like saying, what choice do I have? So how do we get out of this paradox?
The Islamic party, the religious party, well, we're referring to only one party.
Yeah.
But I think their reach is has been overestimated.
Do you think so?
We give them more credit than is due, very simply because in a country of 34 million people, the Muslim population is less than 60%. I think it's slightly over 50%.
I agree.
Because you take Sarawak, which is Bumiputra. Sabah and Sarawak are Bumiputra states,
Yeah.
populated by the local indigenous people. But Sarawak is only 25% Muslim, 75% is non-Muslim, largely Christian. Sabah is now about 50% Muslim, 50% non-Muslim. But the Muslims in Sabah, they are not majority Malays, they are local indigenous people. And also that number is... Project IC and all that. Project IC, as time passes, will sort of disappear by itself because all those Project IC people, they don't live on the land, they live on the sea.
This is let me for our international people. Our Project IC is basically the illegal migration problem that was
legitimizing
illegal immigrants, for political purposes
to make them voters.
So don't think that you are in first world America that you don't have this fraud going on.
But these people who legitimize these migrants from Philippines, they are the nomadic people who live on the sea. They don't have a village.
Sulus.
They don't have a village on the land, on the land side. So over time, they will... I don't think it has helped them anymore. I don't think it helps them as much. So you have Peninsula. The Malay vote is on the Peninsula. And the pure Malay population, or what is identified as indigenous Malays, slightly over 50% of the population, not counting the
Bumiputra portion. I know.
So you only have about over 50% Muslims in this country, and this vote is highly fractured. There will always be Malays who will vote for UMNO. Like the good old days. Always, no matter what.
So where do you think?
I think this is that
give me a prognostication, buddy.
I think that the Islamic Party, the idea that the Islamic Party will somehow take over the government, I think it's not going to happen. My view is it's very far-fetched because they simply don't have the numbers.
They don't have the policies either.
Maybe
the other side, the non-Islamic parties have policies, but they're crap.
If ever the Islamic Party is going to take over the government, they have to win the Chinese vote. And if they want to win the Chinese vote, they have to sit down and talk to the Chinese people. They have to ask a simple question: what can I do for you? So as long as they don't do that, they're not going to win. So I'm not really concerned about the Islamic Party.
Let's pin that. Okay, I think we both agree on that part then. So let the states that are controlled by them, until they realize that the economy is going to go down the drain, they'll get to the same conclusion.
Well, Kelantan hasn't done so in more than 30 years.
I know, which is very interesting. You know why I think?
That's it.
I think the problem is their people go and earn money elsewhere.
Yes.
And then they go back and they all want to go to heaven, and they all voted for all these for these religious promises.
But that will only work in their states, in Kedah and Terengganu.
I'm so sad for Kedah, to be honest.
Even Terengganu, it swings this way and that way.
Kedah never used to be that way.
So I think it's a long shot to worry too much about the Islamic Party. They will get their fair share. They will get, whatever seats they have now, they may be able to sustain it. But to take over the government...
So how do you think that let's say the election plays out a couple of years from now, and
it's going to be another round of hung parliament,
yes.
Or nobody, or even if somebody forms a majority, it will be a very thin majority. It will be unstable government. The only way we're going to have a solid government, some party or coalition winning decisively, is if they get rid of all these old policies,
which is not going to happen,
which we have had in the last 40, 50 years, completely wipe it off the slate, wipe it off the table, and start implementing new policies that are market-based, which open up the economy to market forces. Try to get in as much competition as possible. People need really good education, skills, faith in themselves. People need faith in themselves. You talk about subsidies. We have to be careful with subsidies. You cannot abolish subsidies overnight, but I would support what you said about education, about your story. You went to the US. Those are educational subsidies. We have to maintain those. We need medical and health benefits, which are subsidized by the government. We need to have this. But in industry and business, we have to let market forces play. Let the market decide where it wants to go. Let the businessman and the banker sit across a table and discuss, how may I help you? What can I do for you? What do I need? The government has no place.
You know where the problem lies in our parliamentarian system, in my opinion, is actually you have career politicians. I always like to compare with what happens in America. In America, you got a congressional system, okay? And then you have a Republican system run at the executive level by the president, which allows for dramatic changes, right? So what you have just described to me in the words of Dune, by Frank Herbert, is actually a charismatic leader comes in like a bull in a china shop, which is what has happened with Donald Trump, and say, the free market is going to reign. I'm going to deregulate. I'm going to throw out all these policies. Okay? But in the parliamentarian system where their Congress and Senate lies, it is still quite intractable. They are now running through a federal shutdown, the longest in history, at about 37 days now. They can't even pass a clean budget. Okay? Now, why I'm bringing this up is because the challenge that I see for the next election, you're going to have a hung parliament, for sure. But the hung parliament is still going to be composed by the same people. You don't have a charismatic leader that is going to be able to say, I'm going to dismantle all this that you wanted, right? So how do you think that can happen in our system?
No, so politics as a career option becomes less and less attractive, because if you are a politician now, at the best you can look forward to is one term. That's it. After that, you get kicked out because you cannot hold the voters' confidence anymore. So, this is a problem. In the old days, when you became prime minister under the BN and UMNO, you're talking about, endless. Like when after Dr. Mahathir left after 22 years, the next prime minister was 9 years before he was taken out. I'm talking about Abdullah Badawi.
Yeah.
9 years. Yeah, that's right. And then the other prime minister, Najib, was 6 years, I think. Like, sun never
set. And then it gets shorter and shorter.
Now it's getting shorter.
Yeah.
So if you want to think of becoming a politician, a parliamentarian, a cabinet minister, a member of parliament, now your time frame is one term. That's it.
Don't you think that makes people want to hoard the treasure in the shorter and shorter period?
Make hay while
the sun shines.
You can do that, but there's a huge risk, because when the next bunch of guys come in, they'll send all the squads after you. See, so even that option is disappearing, is receding very quickly. This feeling or opinion that I can get something out of it in this one term, you can try that, but when the next fellow comes, he'll come after you. So even that option is receding. It has happened every time there's a change in prime minister now. They send the people from
the anti-corruption agency will come and knock on your door.
Knock on your door. See, so that is a reality now. It's proven. It's not a theory. It's proven.
So now maybe
politicians have to think very carefully if they want to develop a career in politics. What exactly do they want to do? So I hope that will bring sense into them, and they will think about the most important word in today's discussion, the people. The human beings.
Yes.
You have to think, you have to stop talking about your party and your issues. I listen to many of these talks, which on YouTube, on TV, interviewing politicians and all that. There's so many issues going on now.
Yeah.
I never hear them saying a single word about the people.
The people.
Or in my constituency, I am from, I don't know.
Oh, they are all talking about the chess game of all these politics.
They never say what is happening even in their own constituency. You must give credit to the American congressmen. They're always saying, in my constituency, there are so many jobs, have been created. Or if I do this bill, if I bring this bill in Congress, it will immediately affect so many people in my constituency. They're always thinking about
because otherwise they're going to get kicked out.
You're going to kicked out. We don't have that here. The member of parliament doesn't consider at all how something is going to affect the voters in his own constituency. Forget about the country or the state. In his own constituency, you don't hear that.
Say, before we finish, let's try and wrap it up.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you why. Actually, there's a lot of people who accuse me or try to put me as a Trump sycophant or something like that, right? But here's the thing that people don't realize what I see. What I see is actually a charismatic leader, take it however you want to take that, because he won the election in that way, right? And as an executive, what he has done with his cabinet is actually put people of merit in his cabinet posts, and actually also at a second layer. And you know how cabinet works. They tend to work in silos, right? Treasury work in silo, commerce work in silo, defense work in silo. But what I've seen with this cabinet is actually the silos are so well integrated and coordinated. Because why? They realize that everything that they do in one silo affects the other silo, right? And the only reason they're doing that is exactly what you're saying, because he has to bring a change, right? So here we are stuck with this hung parliament that is going to happen. So that now I come back to our situation. That's the only way I see this country, and we have such potential. If you were to ask me, right? Our people are not cookie cutter, are not bred like cookie cutters in Singapore. Our people are actually very, very innovative, because we have to deal with all this nonsense and all this chaos in order to survive. We need a government that can unleash this potential that our people have, so that the rest of the people who can be employed actually follow these individual leaders of businesses that actually do not have to compete with their own government. How do you think then a hung parliament come the next election can achieve the kind of government that actually will deliver these changes? As I said, let's pin on that.
We are a democracy, which is a good thing. And democracy, at the end of the day, it rewards performance and achievement. So if the politicians do not deliver, do not perform, do not achieve, the democracy will kick them out. So it is they who have to decide. You're not going to be able to remain in power or be in government if you don't deliver, like what Trump is trying to do now. You see, it's basically you don't deliver, you're kicked out. The problem in Malaysia now is we have had such a long time of one-party government. And frankly, even the players, the politicians now in so many parties all came from the same...
Yeah.
The same club,
They all come from the same DNA.
Same DNA.
Yeah.
So the DNA, the thinking, the DNA has not changed. It is up to them to answer your question. It comes to them. It has to come to them. The politicians have to realize that DNA does not work anymore. If you want to stick to that, then you're talking about hung parliament, losing the elections, forming weak coalitions, having to say yes to this guy, that guy, and not achieving anything, and then losing again. That's what's going to happen. They have to realize that DNA has to be, you have to erase it and start anew.
How many election cycles do you think it will take for that to happen?
Let's wait and see. That's why, as I said, to me, 2022 is seminal. It is to me, it is the most important election in this country so far, because we thought that in 2018, when the old system was thrown out and the new guys came in,
we thought things would change.
That's it, everything. This is it, a new beginning for us. No, it didn't. 2022 hung parliament, and now it's 2025. Still, nothing has changed. So how many more election cycles is going to take? I don't know, but rest assured, for an absolute certainty, they don't change these old policies, they're not going to win. You're looking at one-term government, and after you're looking at people checking the old files.
You know what we're going to do then, if that's the case? You've already said that Sabah is going to be the bellwether of what's to come.
Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Maybe what we'll do is after the Sabah election, let's sit again and analyze whether we're going to get the right direction or who's going to be the change agent.
You should be able to see a trend. Don't forget, we had that state elections in 6 states 2 years ago, and the results were not good for the ruling government now at all. They lost quite badly. UMNO, I think they got 0 in one of the states. They got 0. They won 0 state seats. So these are all the indications.
UMNO is done.
It's done.
UMNO is done.
It's done. But the policy that UMNO seeded into the country 50 years ago.
But the DNA is still there.
It's still there.
The DNA is still there. It's only in a different form.
Right. So the politicians seem to be blind. I don't think all of them are blind. They like it. Because as I said, the perks and the benefits of power, it's too good.
Yeah.
The silver threads and the gold threads are just awesome.
Yeah. Only thing I would say as
King Midas.
only thing is as a reminder to our politics is actually look at what happened in Indonesia, look at what happened in Nepal, look at how much our people actually empathize with the gig workers in Jakarta, that they were willing to send food and whatever support they could because they felt the same. I think that was an interesting phenomena. Syed, I think that was an extremely good, illuminating discussion for everybody.
Thank you.
I hope this. Yeah, I think that's exactly what you just said. Every other podcast doesn't talk like this. We talk like this because we want to be truthful to the audience, and we don't cater to politics. We cater to the people. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you. Welcome.
Like, subscribe, and let's get more audience. Thank you very much.